This is Queued Up, where we amplify the voices of educators with the science, soul, and story shaping education. Today we have David Carlson, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources in the Lee Summit School District in Missouri. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. So tell me about your role and what you do for the Lee Summit School District.
Yeah, so currently I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, so I essentially lead the HR functions for our school district. Our school district's about 18,000 students, about 3,000 employees, and our HR team's about 9 members in it that lead, supervise, and work with to execute the functions of HR.
Okay, I'm sure you didn't get to start at the top. So what are some other roles you've had?
So I've been an Executive Director of Human Resources, as well as I actually started my career as a middle school teacher, which is funny. I wanted to be a high school teacher. I thought that's where all the heavy work and hard work was done. Yeah,
Then we found out middle school's really hard.
middle school's really fun. It's an amazing age. It's a great age. It's fun. So I was a middle school teacher, then a middle school assistant principal, and then middle school principal for 6 years. It's funny. I was an ancient civilizations teacher. It's funny how life, you have plans, right?
Yeah.
And it was going to be a psychology, sociology teacher, and then ended up teaching ancient civilizations in middle school, and needed a job, and that's the job I landed on, and ended up absolutely loving that work and working with middle school kids.
You know, we used to be in an era where we had to take the job that was available.
Right.
But it's switched up.
It's very different now. Yeah, it's we actually talk about that. It used to be, you were applying at 20, 30 different places to hopefully get a couple interviews. And now it's really flipped. It's a candidates market to where folks will often say, can I wait to say yes to this job? I've got some other interviews, things like that.
I'll never forget one of my first jobs I applied for as a teacher, special education teacher. I applied and I was one of 232 applicants.
Yeah.
And now it's not even close.
No, I'm sure we have 232 retirees that have come out of retirement in the state of Missouri to fill SPED positions.
I am sure. So that brings me to my question for you. What is Lee Summit School District doing to be innovative to recruit?
I think one of the first things we're doing is a strong Grow Your Own program that also connects with our universities and having student teachers that we're connecting with early on to connect to. Another thing we're doing is just making sure we maintain being a destination district with a great community. When I go to colleges to recruit, I'll talk about Lee Summit's unique in that the largest employer in the city of Lee Summit is actually the school district.
Oh, okay.
People choose Lee Summit for great schools and a great community, and then they usually drive into Kansas City to work.
So how do you maintain that reputation? Because obviously it's based on quality schools, but you have to stay innovative all the time to be able to draw people in.
Yeah. So first of all, we have amazing teachers, and that's part of why we will actually place 50 to 60 student teachers a year, knowing we can't hire all of them, but we do believe that we have the best teachers to train up future educators. And then we do always hire some of our student teachers, or we hope they come back to us after they get some experience in other places. So having a strong foundation, and really, you have to think long term, and it's almost like you're growing trees in a forest rather than planting corn for a season. You want to build that reputation and have people talk about the great things. And then it really comes down to programming. We're a fairly good sized school district in the state of Missouri, but we design lots of niches and little places for kids to plug in to be successful. Some of the more recent ones, we have an innovation campus where at Summit Tech, you can start your college degree your junior year of high school, graduate debt-free with college pretty much paid for after 2 years after high school with degrees in software development, cybersecurity, business finance, things like that.
That is amazing. I had no idea that you had that.
Yeah.
Do you plan on expanding that program?
So we will adjust to the market.
Okay.
So as new things are emerging and needed, then we'll adjust to that. And we work with our city and our community. We just added a firefighter program. So you can actually start and you can get Fire 1, 2, 3 and EMT through Summit Tech through our program in a partnership with the fire department. They told us that, hey, we need firefighters and we're having a hard time with candidates. So we said, okay, we'll start them in high school in a half-day program, and they'll start regular high school for part of the day. Then the second half of the day, they'll do their firefighter. They graduate high school ready to be a firefighter in Lee Summit.
I love that because I feel like that's hitting so many more students than sometimes we've traditionally done in schools. When you think about the student that's going to go into IT is definitely not the student that's going to be a firefighter or vice versa.
Yeah, and at Summit Tech, we have things where we have programs for nursing, for engineering. We have an aerospace program. We're actually in a partnership. We're getting ready to open a new classroom at Kali Summit Airport, where we have 3 flight simulators, and we are growing that program. We're probably going to need a second teacher in it eventually, but they're get credentialed for drone licensing, then introduces them to lots of different jobs in the aerospace and airfield.
So, how are you as a district determining where that trend is moving and what you need to be opening next, or maybe even phasing out of?
Yeah. So we have a real big focus on workforce development and market value assets in our community. And through that, we have career navigators in different positions that are connected with our community and different business leaders, and just talk to them about what are the needs, what are you seeing. It's interesting when you ask and just say, hey, what do you need? One, as far as skills and employees, and two, what are the gaps that you have? Folks will just tell you, well, we need this. We need folks with better soft skills, better problem solving. And then we build that into, we had, I think it was 90+% of our kids graduated with multiple market value assets, which actually goes on their transcript that shows the different assets they have for companies as they graduate high school.
That's amazing. Do you find that a lot of school districts are doing this type of work, or are you elite in that?
Yeah, in the state of Missouri, a lot are. I feel like we've really been on the front end of the wave of implementing it in a granular way and reaching our students with it and being responsive and developing programming and different niches for kids to get plugged into. But it has been a focus in the state of Missouri: workforce development, workplace readiness, and having our high schools throughout the state get folks ready for the work market in Missouri.
Before we continue, this episode is sponsored by Q360 Workforce Solutions. If you're a leader listening, you already know the problem. Q360 helps districts get ahead of the staffing and support gaps. This isn't about looking good on paper, it's about keeping schools steady. All right, back to the conversation.
So, when I think about what you guys are doing, it sounds easy. You said ask the questions and it'll give you the answers. But what is the district doing? Like, what did you get those questions answered? Do you have a leader of that program that really decides that? Is it a committee? How's that working?
Yeah, we do have leaders on the instructional side of our organization. A person by the name of Shannon Booth is amazing, and she works in this college career readiness niche and really works to stay plugged into our economic development council, the business partner communities, and then there's 4 career navigators that are actually certified teachers that will work with the different businesses in our community, and then come back and work with our schools and talk about the needs that are emerging and showing up. That's how the fire science program came about, was, through that coordination, the fire department said, yeah, we this is a need. We're having a hard time with applicants.
I love that. I have seen several other districts in the Kansas City area doing similar things. My son went through a CAPS program, Northland CAPS, and went into engineering. And he's getting ready to graduate in December with an engineering degree. So I've seen that, but I didn't know about like the fire piece of that and the different things that you guys are doing.
Yeah, no, it's been exciting. It's been exciting to see the kids have success and come out with job ready skills, some right after high school. We also will partner with Herndon and Raytown, where they have diesel mechanic, welding, culinary classes. So there's a lot of different niches, and in a school district our size, it's important to get kids plugged into where their strengths are.
And do you feel like your graduation rates have improved since you're plugging kids in?
Yeah, well, we've always had good, strong graduation rates. I think the more relevant you make school and learning to the future of kids, then they're going to persist and really. So, I think for a while there, we were telling everyone you have to go to college.
You read my mind.
And yeah, and so now we realize that, we do need folks to go to college, but there's a lot of other jobs and skilled trades that are out there as well.
And there are just some kids who college is just not going to be the best fit for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The thought of sitting in a classroom for 4 more years of college and really learning can happen in more places than a college classroom.
Oh, absolutely.
We have some folk. I was talking to a student the other day. I mentioned welding. one of my son's friends that graduated 3 years ago. He did a 6-month welding program right after high school, and he's been driving all over the U.S. for special projects and jobs, and has been really successful just because he has that skill set and learned that trade.
Yeah, and I think that the new generation, not to age us, but I think they are thinking outside the box more than we ever did. I kind of grew up in the era of you're going to college, that's what you're doing, and we are seeing a shift from that.
Yeah, yeah, we are, and and I think we always have to be careful. Sometimes we swing the pendulum too
Of
far.
course.
So sometimes, well, now the college is for nobody, and that's not the truth. Is somewhere in the middle,
Yes.
where we need to have a workforce development that's responsive to our community needs, whether it's college or trades.
Right. So I want to kind of circle back to the student teacher program. You said, did you say 40 to 50?
Yeah, we'll place 40 to 50 student teachers each year, and then we have others doing observations and connecting with our schools. We just feel like we have amazing teachers and amazing schools, and that's the best way to prepare. We're a school district that we will often hire. We'll hire first year teachers, but we'll often get to hire people with experience. And with that, you know, Kansas City, all of us HR professionals, we collaborate well together. We're in this era where you'd mentioned having the 232 candidates for a job. Well, we're in this era now where it's more of an ecosystem that we need to support each other. And if I'm going to hire someone away, or one of my people is going to go somewhere else for their family needs, relocation, shouldn't we have people on the bench ready to step into those roles? So that's kind of how we look at it, is having a big, robust student teacher program. Feel like great teachers are growing out of our schools. And then we also do some neat things with a student teacher breakfast and things like that to help them get their first job.
I can only imagine that's a huge undertaking, though, to have that many people placed. And do you have a whole system program on how you run that?
Yeah, we have two people on our team, Dr. DeVilbus and Robin Williams. They work with the colleges and spreadsheets. And here's the thing: when you work with multiple universities, every one of them is a little bit different,
Yes, they are.
and different contacts. And some of the bigger universities will work with a couple different people. So it's a lot of one-on-one communication, dialogue, getting folks in, and then we do want to make sure that the student teachers we bring in are going to be good for our kids. So we'll have a screening process and do spark hire interviews, things like that. But then if we feel like they're going to be a good candidate to student teach, then we look forward and work to place them as much as possible.
You know, you mentioned that you have high quality teachers and trainings in Lee Summit, and it's kind of interesting. My most influential training that I ever went through while I was a teacher, I did it from a staff member from the Lee Summit School District years ago. She provided a boot camp fall intensive teaching, and it taught me how to educate my students better. And I have used that and trained people on it for probably the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And it came right out of Lee Summit School District.
No, we have our teachers are amazing. We have phenomenal staff that really do innovative, amazing things for kids. And you talk about how do these programs develop. Well, a lot of it starts with a teacher that has an idea, and then it kind of grows out of that.
And I love that you all are supporting these ideas. I mean, it sounds like you have a lot of innovative things happening. Where do you see the future of hiring? Are you going to have to make any changes on how that occurs?
Yeah, I think um, looking at changes in hiring, you know, I think a big thing is just promoting our profession. Sometimes it does feel like public education's under attack a little bit,
For sure.
and then false narratives start growing from that. So I think it's important for us when talking about hiring is to manage and protect our brand and the great things that are happening in our schools and the great successes, because those aren't the things that naturally get talked about.
Right.
So I think one of the biggest things is talking about our brand, the great profession that education is, so that people see that as a path moving forward. I think part of it also is doing the storytelling of, teachers in our school district that are in, say, their 28th, 29th year and have their master's degree and extra graduate hours. They're making $100,000 a year for a 182-day contract.
Yes.
And in Kansas City, that's a great salary. So I think sometimes there's perceptions about challenges in education that aren't always accurate or true. Like, you can't sustain a family or have a good income.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that because that's literally why we started Queued Up Podcast. Because I said, what's going viral is when you see a student throwing a chair and you see that video and the chaos that happens after that. but nobody's talking about what happens after that chair throw. There's teachers stepping in to help teach that child how to regulate themselves. They're getting supports for the family. They're doing all of these things, but media focuses in on the negative thing that's occurred.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one moment in time. Um, and that's that kid's moment in time. Then we have great professionals that rally around them, help that kid process whatever caused that outburst and help them go on to be successful and do great things.
Absolutely. And I love that the Lee Summit School District recognizes there's great things, and you're doing a good job at promoting what we're doing that's great in the districts.
Thank you, Tracy.
But yeah, I mean, I am from the Kansas City area, and it is known as one of the districts you want to work in.
Yeah.
So, do you have a lot of vacancies when the school year starts?
No, we typically do not, unless we have a late resignation or something like that. Because we have a teaching workforce of 1,400. Like this week, I have a teacher that's having to resign because their spouse is being relocated. So that'll create an opening for us. But there are some positions, SLPs, autism behavior specialists, some of the special education roles that they're more challenging to fill. But that's where we've also been very intentional about placing SLPs for their externships, like student teaching.
Yeah.
Which
Got those people on the bench, right?
absolutely, and even in the years where we may not have an SLP vacancy, we still want those students coming from the college to make connections, get great training on why education is a great field, maybe go somewhere else, then in maybe 5 years come back to us when we do have an opening.
Yeah. They're saying now that retention is the new recruiting. What is Lee Summit doing to retain?
Yeah, so well, first we track the data, and our retention's been very high in the Kansas City Metro. We're usually number one with less than 10% turnover. After that, we really just talk about and tell the story about why it's a great place to work. We support our teachers. We have great principals and great leaders, and that makes a big difference for a teacher. Having a principal and assistant principal that is supportive and helps them when things are challenging in the classroom or they're having a hard time getting through to a kid, having those supports. We have other things like instructional technology specialists, 504 coordinators, just other hands that can come in and help support teachers be successful. Something else we do is just invest in our salaries so that at the end of your career, we pay the highest in the Kansas City Metro when you get to the end of your teaching career. And we invested in our salary schedule that way. We've been fortunate that our Board of Education has been very supportive of that. Also, our retirement system in the state of Missouri, it's a great retention tool. It really is. And I think that's something we have to tell the story about and talk about as well, because when you can work in your teaching career for 30 years and then retire with a pension that essentially provides you with the same income you had at the end of your career, that's a huge benefit and a great retention strategy so people stay till the end of their career.
Yeah, I know when I started the Missouri schools, it was hard because I wasn't in a district that paid that high. And that I think it was 14% that had to come out of my salary.
I'm 14 and a half right now.
Yes. And I was like, "Oh, 14%.
Yeah.
But if Lee Summit is being aggressive with their income, that probably helps counterbalance that.
Yeah, it does help. We do want to bring up our starting teaching pay. We have an index schedule, and there's some things we're just having conversations about how do we improve starting teacher pay while maintaining and staying number one at the end of our schedule. But once you get your master's and start moving through our schedule, plus, salary is one part of something that it keeps on.
Right.
Having a
Not
great
it.
team that you're connected to and leaders at your school, an amazing grade level team, and we have great kids, a great community. All those things have value as well.
Absolutely. What do you think makes a great leader?
I think having a heart for kids and people and an empathetic heart that can relate and is solution oriented. At the end of the day, a leader has to bring solutions and find solutions, even when things seem impossible or hard.
Yeah.
Leadership is, it's so dynamic today in that we have to see the multiple steps it takes to get to solutions. That we're gone from the days of here's the one thing you can do to fix the problem. Environments are dynamic, and we have to take the number of steps and think about the people that are involved and equip them to be successful.
So can you think back in your career to a leader that stood out to you and helped mentor you?
Yeah, I can. We will often talk about them as the folks that are on our board. If we had a boardroom of the people that had an impact, who are they? And I think the biggest thing those folks would do is just provide time. And the other thing they do is they wouldn't give the answer of what to do. They process with you
Yeah,
on
that's hard though.
it is.
You're
It's
like,
hard.
no, I came to you for an answer.
It is. Well, and especially when you're busy.
Yeah.
But the best leaders will process with you because I can't tell a principal, here's the solution when I don't know their school culture as well as they do, the dynamics of the people involved. So you really have to process through with, okay, what's happening? How did it start? Why is the person doing this? And then how do we help that?
Yeah. Which is really skill building.
It is absolutely helps them develop their skills. So then, it's you give a person a fish or teach them to.
I was actually thinking of that analogy and I was like, oh, I'll probably mess it up. I'll probably be like, lead a horse to water. I can't teach him to swim or something.
Yeah. I messed it up for you. So you're good.
Um, let's go back to the leadership, a mentor. Do you have a specific person or any story that changed your life and your trajectory?
I'm going to go back early. There's a gentleman by the name of Paul Gowdy. When I first became an assistant principal, he was also an assistant principal and a mentor of mine. And something that he said back in the early 2000s when I became an assistant principal is still very relevant today and ties back to our initial conversation, Tracy, about workforce development and having options. And it was a story he would tell that is basically called Let the Rabbit Run. So
Okay.
what the story is, the way it goes, and I'll mess it up, but the way it goes is you're in the forest, and the forest Olympics are getting ready to happen. And there's a rabbit, a bird, and a fish. They're all here to compete. There's 3 events. One is swimming, one is running, and one is jumping. And the running event was first, and the rabbit, felt great. Took off, ran great, was impressive. The fish almost died. And the bird got disqualified because they didn't properly run because they kept leaving the ground. And then the swimming event happened, and the rabbit was exhausted trying to figure out how to swim while the fish swam circles around him. And the bird just chose not to even participate because I don't want her. So, and then there's the jumping event. And in the jumping event, again, the bird wasn't doing it according to the rules because they kept just starting to fly. The fish was struggling with even thinking, how in the world am I supposed to jump? And started jumping out of the water. So modified it their own way. And the rabbit, because the rabbit had hurt themselves in the swimming event, just didn't do very good at jumping either, which they should have been good at.
Right.
So the story goes, let the rabbit run, let the bird fly, and let the fish swim. And I thought that was great wisdom, and it still applies today over 2 decades later, that as we have multiple niches and places in our society that we need people with different types of strengths and skills, we need to be careful about saying, well, you have to do this, you have to learn this, here's the way to do something. We need to say, here's the task I want you to accomplish, and show me how you can get it done.
Yeah. And I think we're good at doing that for students, but sometimes we expect something different out of the adults that we work with.
Yeah. No, sometimes it's important to say, hey, how do you want to accomplish this? What are some ways? That's how innovation happens. Not saying here's how you have to do it, but what are some ways you can accomplish it? Here are the resources. Here's our curriculum, and the curriculum needs to be taught, but what are the ways that you can get it connected to kids?
Yeah. And I think that teachers are truly creatives. Like they want to be innovative and be creative in their classrooms. And sometimes I think that in education, we stifle that creativity when we box them in too far. So it sounds like you guys are not doing that.
Yeah. I think there's a balance. You did teach skills in the session this morning where we were talking about AI and creativity. I think there's a balance where you have to have good foundational skills, math, reading, communication. But once you've reached that foundation, then let people soar with their strengths and be able to be innovative, creative, and find ways to solve complex problems.
Yeah, let that rabbit run, right?
Right.
So let's close this with your passion. Why do you do what you do? Why are you so passionate about this?
I think at the end of the day, because great public schools are key to our democracy working well and for society functioning well. And I think schools are an awesome reflection of what's happening in our world today. They're microcosms of society, and they really show what the future holds of what's coming.
Yeah.
And when you get in our schools and see the amazing things that young people are doing, it's fascinating. We have amazing kids that are doing great things, innovative things, that are going to do great positive things for the world. That's the part that is exciting for me, that I get to see a great, fantastic, positive future just by walking in classrooms and seeing the great things happening in our school district.
Well, you've done a nice job today because if I'm ever going back into teaching, I think I might be looking up Lee Summit School District.
Should. Special education jobs. We're ready.
We're at, as special education teachers, we like to get in there and
Yeah.
roll up our sleeves and get going.
Absolutely. Look forward to seeing your application come through.
Thank you for being here today. I appreciate the wisdom that you shared and what your district is doing. And I hope to continue our connection so that I can hear more about Lee Summit. And when you're doing anything new, let's talk.
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, thanks. I enjoyed visiting with you, getting to brag about the great things happening in Lee Summit.
Thanks for listening to Queued Up. Follow and subscribe to stay queued up for what's next.